He mopped floors in silence, called incompetent by the CEO. But the truth? He once led elite rescue missions and saved more lives than the CEO ever will. Asterisk in the heart of downtown Manhattan, the mirrored tower of Wellington Corp shimmered like a monument to capitalism. Inside, boardrooms buzzed with deals, deadlines, and decisions, and none seemed smaller to CEO Lawrence Wellington than the dismissal of a janitor named Marcus Holliday. It was supposed to be routine. Just another file on his desk. He missed a few shifts. Left the supply closet unlocked. The HR manager droned, but Wellington didn't even look up from his screen. Fire him. Sloppiness has no place here. What he didn't see was Marcus, a tall, middle-aged black man with broad shoulders and a quiet grace, standing just outside the frosted glass door, waiting. The janitor's uniform fit like it belonged to a man used to structure, discipline, duty. His eyes, however, carried the weight of something deeper. When they brought him in, Wellington barely acknowledged him. He leaned back in his leather chair, the skyline behind him casting a godlike aura. "Mr. Hawley," he said with a forced smile, "Wellington Corp appreciates your service, but it's time to move on." Marcus nodded once. "Understood, sir." No argument. No protest. Just silence. Wellington's curiosity sparked. "That's all? No excuse?" "I've seen worse endings," Marcus replied. The CEO blinked, thrown off. "Excuse me?" Marcus offered a nod, turned, and walked out. That night, Wellington dined at a private gala hosted by a defense contractor. There, between champagne flutes and polished egos, he noticed a large digital portrait, a tribute wall. On it, photographs of elite rescue operatives who had saved lives in war zones, disasters, and covert missions worldwide. One of them was Marcus. Same posture, same eyes. The caption read, "Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Hawley, Black Ops Paramedic, SEAL Team 8-27 missions, 124 lives saved." Wellington choked on his wine. The janitor he fired was a war hero. He couldn't sleep. That night, images of his own arrogance, the laughter of his staff when Marcus quietly cleaned offices, the pride they mistook for meekness, all played on repeat. The next morning he made a call. "Get me Marcus Hawley, now." Marcus lived modestly in a quiet neighborhood far from the city's noise. When Wellington arrived, Marcus greeted him with the same calm expression. "I didn't need to be a hero here," Marcus said. "I just needed peace." Wellington stood in silence, guilt riding heavy on his face. "You saved lives. You led elite missions. Why sweep floors?" "Because some battles aren't about guns, they're about dignity. And mine doesn't change based on the uniform I wear." At the next company meeting, Wellington did the unthinkable. He called the staff into the lobby. "I judged a man without knowing his story," he confessed. "Marcus Hawley wasn't just our janitor. He was a savior to many." Gasps, whispers, faces flushed with shame. Wellington turned to Marcus, who stood beside him once more, not as a cleaner, but as a man who had once led men through fire. "I'd be honored if you'd return, but not as a janitor, as head of security, as a symbol of honor." Marcus considered it, then nodded. Soon, Marcus's story was framed in the lobby. Visitors paused before his plaque, reading about missions in Somalia, Haiti, and Afghanistan. Employees now stood when he entered a room. They shook his hand, but Marcus remained unchanged. He still walked the halls at night, not to clean, but to watch over, to ensure safety, to quietly protect. And when young staff members asked why he stayed humble, he always said, "Because no title is worth more than self-respect." Months later, Marcus launched a mentorship program for veterans transitioning into civilian life. Wellington Corp funded it. The first class had 12 men and women. By year 2, it had 200. Marcus became a quiet legend, not just for what he had done, but for what he refused to boast about. His humility healed the arrogance that once poisoned the marble halls of Wellington Corp. And for every suit that passed by, there was a reminder. The quietest man in the room had already survived the loudest wars. Jerome Carter didn't go on a media tour. He didn't post a single thing online. No rants, no interviews. No need to explain himself. That wasn't his way. After the press caught wind of his decorated military past, the lives he saved, the missions no one else would touch, the world was shocked. But Jerome? He simply vanished into quiet service. Days after his firing, someone spotted him at a rundown community center in Southside, a place most CEOs had never heard of, let alone stepped foot in. There, Jerome was dressed in sweats, kneeling on the gym floor, teaching a group of at-risk teens how to breathe, how to hold their stance, how to command their bodies with discipline and respect. "Don't fight out of anger," he told a boy named Elijah who had just come in from a fight at school. "Fight to protect. Fight to rise." The kids didn't know he was a war hero. They just knew he listened, that he never yelled, that his eyes, calm but sharp, made them want to sit up straighter, work harder. Meanwhile, Richard Halden, the CEO who fired him, was being roasted online. Stock prices dipped. Investors asked questions. How could a man so ignorant lead a billion-dollar company? In a desperate move, Richard asked for a second meeting. "Let me make things right," he said over the phone. "A public ceremony. We'll honor your service. Give you a position, head of corporate security. Triple salary." Jerome's reply was simple. "You had a chance to see me. You didn't. I don't need your money. I need to be where I matter." Then he hung up. That afternoon, Richard watched a shaky video on Twitter filmed inside the community center. It showed Jerome standing between two fighting teens, arms calmly outstretched, voice low but firm. "You want to be warriors?" he said. "Then start by honoring yourselves." The boys lowered their fists. Richard stared at the screen. For the first time in a long time, he felt something crack inside him. Regret. Because in chasing power, he had overlooked a man who was power, quiet, humble, unshakable. And now, Jerome belonged to the people who truly needed him. Asterisk.